I want to try something a little different. Obviously, I'm not at world headquarters, and I have been wanting to share different things with our viewers because um, you like sometimes, I'm not just building a camper. What's the behind the scenes? And those videos do pretty well for us. So I had this idea, and I hope this works. I have not run it by Russ yet, and it's going to involve him, and it's going to involve some editing. And so if you don't see this, it's because he cut it all out because he said no. So we'll see. This is things come to my mind, and sometimes I just want to share them with somebody. And sometimes you guys are the somebodies that I want to share this with. And sometimes I just write things down in story form for myself. This one could have went either way. We're going to talk about campers in a way, but we're not going to build any campers today. There's not going to be any campers in this video. There's not going to be any tools in this video. But I hope to give you some tools that might help you if you decide to do something like Rob the Rebuilder would do, or if you just want to do one yourself, it might help you. I want to take you back. Well, let me name this. Know your worth. Know your worth. That could go through a lot of aspects of your life. Now, I didn't write this down and I didn't practice it. I want to do this off the cuff. When Rob the Rebuilder first started, which is through YouTube, now there was a Rob and Russ building campers for Rob. That's not on YouTube. So that's not Rob the Rebuilder. Rob the Rebuilder is me, the character, I think I'm pretty close to this in real life, more or less. But Rob the Rebuilder on YouTube is the character that you see, the person that you see. And when I started, that first camper I think it was a 64 Scotty. And Russ and I just put a lot of work in to getting that first Scotty up and running. And it wasn't, you could go back and watch it. It's like episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, something like that. But we put it on, just followed what I was doing. We thought that might be interesting, but otherwise we just wanted people to feel comfortable buying something from us. And I just enjoyed it. I was very creative with it, and it gave me an outlet. And so we were just building it. We didn't have a customer. We knew there would be a customer out there. It was a Scotty. They're cute little campers. So as we went, we said, we're just building this. If you're interested in it, give us a shout. So we did that, and then a viewer who became a customer, did contact us and said, I'd like to have that. I'm going to make some choices, though. We were pretty early in on it. So they were able to make some choices that I didn't like, but I wasn't so stubborn then as I am now that I want it my way, not your way. Point. So we did that. It worked all through the winter in the shop there at World Headquarters, and it was cold. That was a cold, cold winter. Put myself under an artificial deadline to finish, and just caused more trouble than it was worth, stress-wise. And I'm really just getting over that now, not giving myself artificial deadlines. And this all goes back to know your worth. So if you're still listening by now, you're one of those people that get this, and maybe you probably get me. Um, we got it done. The lady came by. She picked it up. She was happy with it. Not ecstatic, but she was happy. And she lived not too far from me, actually, as it serendipitously worked out. And she took it home, and she just wanted it for in her yard. She wasn't going camping with it. She wanted to spend time with the grandkids in it, like that. And that's what happened. Well, she paid in cash. And now here's an inside baseball for you. At that time, I had just bought a house and bought world headquarters, had it built actually, and the land. So I wasn't flush with cash. My younger brother, we've always done things together. He doesn't live in the state, but he financed some builds. He bought some campers and said, hey, here's some campers for Rob the Rebuilder. Okay. So he was in on that one. And when the time came, he said, well, how did we do? I'm going to throw some numbers out the best I can remember them, but this is the know your worth part. He said, what'd you sell it for? And if I'm remembering correctly, now this was 4 years ago, don't hold me to it. I said, I think $6,000. He said, oh, great. How many hours you got in it? Well, I don't know. I think I started in September or October, and I think I finished in March. Just kind of took my time, but I didn't write my hours down. I would estimate that I probably had somewhere around 220 to 250 hours back then, because I didn't know what I was doing exactly. I was learning as I went from previous campers. And he said, well, what do you got in it? You know, what's our cost of material? Now understand me before I answer that question. I have 3 business degrees, the most elevated of which is a Master's of Business Management. And so I said, well, I don't know. Well, what do you mean you don't know? Now, the reason he didn't mind sending money to me in large amounts, number one, it's my brother. Number 2, he knows I take care of business. But camper-wise, it's fun for me. I thought it was a hobby. I didn't realize it was a business. And he said, well, did you keep receipts? I said, well, I guess I did. I don't know that I kept all of them, but I think. He goes, well, why don't you go add those up and call me back? Okay. Well, I added everything up that I had a receipt for, and I had somewhere, I'm trying to remember exactly, and this is going to be within $100 here and there. And I think I said, hey, I the best I can tell you right now is material-wise, I've got 4,800 in this. He said, and so you sold it for 6? I said, yeah. So we made 1,200 on our first camper. He goes, didn't you buy that with another one so you can get started in the other one? Yeah. He goes, wait, does that count the cost of the camper? No, it doesn't. Now, I don't think Jim will mind me telling you this, but he had both those campers for sale. And this is before Jim and I were friends. And he had both of them for sale, and I said, well, make me a deal on both of them, Jim. And so that single camper, which I bought both, ended up costing me, I think, $1,250. So my brother says, you lost me $50. I said, well, technically $25, because, you know, I get half of this. He said, you can't keep doing that. Well, in my mind, I could, because I was having fun. Now, on my money, I don't mind losing $25 to build a camper at this time. And I told Russ, and Russ is a business-minded person as well. And he said, "You're not charging enough." My brother didn't know the camper business. Russ had now been with me. He goes, "You're not charging enough. People charge way more than that." And I said, "But Russ, they're way better than me." He goes, "No, they're not. No, they're not." So we took a trade on that first camper, and that one went to my sister. And there was a lot more reusable on this camper. It was that 75 Roadrunner. So technically it was a trade in, so there, all of the cost was already into that Scotty, so there's no cost here. And so we're starting at zero. So I said, I've got to keep track of my hours, and I got to keep track of our money. And I like doing that. I just didn't want it to ruin me having fun building campers. But this is my sister. I don't, But I had already told her before I finished this other one, yeah, come and get it on this day, probably $6,500 for you, which I didn't mind. Kept track. Long story short, broke even. Now, there's not much my brother could say. He complained, but that's our sister. And Russ, well, he loves my sister too, but he's not related. Not really, kind of. But he says, you got to start charging more. And my brother called me up and he said, you got to start charging more. I said, but, I looked around and I've been asking people what they paid to get their camper redone. And I said, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's like almost double what we're charging. And I saw online where guys say, it's $2,000 a foot. So if you've got a 12-foot Scotty, 10-foot box, or 13-foot Scotty and a 3-foot, that's $13,000 or $26,000, something like that. I said, that seems like a lot. But those are the high-end guys. Then there were some guys out there that were $1,500. So a Scotty is coming in, even if they just counted the 10-foot box, $15,000, and they're getting it. And I said, I can't do that. So the next one I did, I think I added, when the person came and asked me, what's this going to cost? Well, what I normally would charge, I added $2,000. I thought, okay, now I'm definitely going to make $2,000. And he said, yeah, okay. I was flabbergasted. Because now I've got 2 on YouTube and people are liking it. And so that came and went. I got better at building campers. Customer was pleased. Went down the road and I told my brother, okay, we turned a profit on this one. And it was right about that $2,000 that I thought we would get. And he said, well, what did the customer say? And I said, customer was very pleased, and they didn't hesitate on the price. He said, well, you need to add 1,000. I said, I can't do that. Nobody's going to take it at 1,000. Well, Russ was there when I was on the phone. Russ said, you need to add 2,000. You're getting good. Next one came in, and I'm telling you, I don't know why I have a lot of confidence in my normal life. I just didn't have that confidence for some reason. And so next person comes in, loves what we're doing on video, feels comfortable. It's a local person. Okay, what's this going to cost me? So on top of that 2,000, I added 1,000. And of course, I'm keeping track of my hours now. So I'm up to like $9 an hour for my time. But I love it. I loved it. And so I added 1,000 on top of that 2,000, and the customer said, hey, that sounds great. Because people call around. They call around. They just, okay, that's great. I mean, I couldn't get the words out of my mouth fast enough. And they're, okay. That's when it hit me. So I relayed that back to them, and they said, see, now you need to be where you need to be. And I went up a little here and a little there, because in my mind, my heart, I wasn't a real carpenter. But then people start saying, man, you're doing great work, you're doing great work. Sometimes that doesn't always fall on you and stick. And I just kept getting better, and I kept paying attention, and I kept doing better, to where now can offer a reasonable price for the customer and a reasonable profit for Rob the Rebuilder. So I guess I bring you that to bring you this. It's okay to charge what you're worth. It's okay to find a happy ground for your customer and you. You don't have to kill it every time. You know, I had an old boss a long time, he's not old, but a long time ago, that he said, you can shear a sheep many times, you can only skin him once. And what I took away from that was, you shear them, that means on sheep, you take their wool off and take the wool to market. And that's reasonable. Well, if you skin him, now you get to eat him, you got the wool, you got the hide, you know, you have a bigger profit, but you can only do it once because you skinned him. I took that to mean as, if I skin this customer, that customer is going to talk and say, charge way too much. And that's why I am where I am. So, know your worth, not just in campers, but in everything that you do. You know, that doesn't mean you have to be arrogant. It just means if you know you're where you are, meet everybody there. Because that's what I try to do when it comes to Rob the Rebuilder. And I hope that maybe a lot of you that have worked with us have noticed that. Even our vendors, I call them vendors, they're friends, you know, like Chris Abbey, and of course Russ's wife does our upholstery, and then our big upholstery, the big heavy upholstery Ron does, and there's others, but then when I meet them where they're at, and sometimes I don't think they charge enough. And I'm like, hey, you can keep charging me this, but you shouldn't charge everybody else this. Your work is that good. And I see in their eyes they felt just like I did. And I said, I'm not kidding you. This is good work. I go, I've done this for a while now. I'm not the big dog. I'm not saying that. But I know what good work is, and that's good work. And you better put a couple dollars on that, because there's no sense you wasting your time on such good work. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Know your worth.